Your mic is
Oh,
turned
my mic. Super the wrong way. Thank you. Okay, so I'll call this to order at 6:30. We don't have any remote participants, so we can just move ahead. Our first order of business will to be moved into executive session. So I move the Amherst Pelham Regional School Committee will now consider entering executive session pursuant to MAGLC 30A, Section 21A, Section 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting law may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and I do declare the APA negotiations with units A, B, and C with the intent to return to open session.
Second.
Thank you. Bridget.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Tillman.
Yes.
Irv.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Deb.
Yes.
And Sarah Bess. That is 7 of us. All right. And we will be back. students from Engineering for the Social Good presentation, so please come join us.
You can pull up more chairs.
Yes. So can you give the course so they can...
I'll just start by saying a little bit about, I'm John Fable. I teach engineering and physics here.
You're gonna want to talk right into the mic. You can take it off. Take it off the handle, and then you can stand and. There you go.
Work better for
We have an
Amherst
extra
meetings.
one here too. So.
I'm told I need to use my arms when I talk. I'm John Fable, and I teach engineering and physics here, and I'm also an alum. But although I graduated before this sleek modern library was built. These are students are from Engineering for Social Good class, which runs every semester. It's an advanced engineering class. And the whole idea of the course is that what's it like to actually take on a real problem? What's it like to not only take on a real problem, but actually see it through into implementation? What's it actually like to do the real work? What's it like to feel that agency? So we begin by interviewing the community, and see if we can identify projects for which there might be an engineering-oriented solution. And then that is the curriculum for the course. And we work on developing those. And a part of the idea is it's one thing to develop a solution technically, but how do you get it implemented? Because that's really where the impact of that solution comes, is when it becomes adopted and implemented. And of course, that takes on bringing in stakeholders and all of the other ecosystem aspects of bringing something into motion and creating change, really. So part of what we work on is how do you communicate your work to stakeholders? How do you engage with stakeholders? So we work on doing presentations. And the part of the final exam, if you will, is giving a presentation to the community. I am not the audience, and we invite community members. And this past semester, Seth and Ms. Malcolm, Georgia Malcolm, were in the audience, and they were like, you've got to show this. The school committee got to see this. So that was the genesis of the invitation. So we've got two teams, and not everyone is able to be here because herding cats, right? Would you believe how busy students are? For real, yeah. So here we are, and let's see. Guess right. So. Yep.
Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth,
My name is Liam.
and this is the community space narrative. So this is a project to create a positive community space at the entrance to our school. It all began in the beginning of our Engineering for Social Good class. Our idea came from interviewing stakeholders such as students, faculty, and staff in our community at ARHS and listening to what they had to say. Several themes emerged from these interviews, and the main three were organization, such as shelving, a desire for a stronger sense of community, and places to enjoy the outside in a school setting. So one of the reoccurring topics in particular that stood out to us was the former courtyard that was at the front of the school by the main doors. People missed the seating arrangements that used to be there because they said it gave a sense of community, provided places to sit, enjoy nature and each other, have classes outside, and wait for buses there. We also observed that staff sat outside there for lunch sometimes.
This is a bird's eye view of the school when it still had the seating area out front. You can see it has like a little mix of shade and sunshine, and this is the same area that we would want to put the gazebo in.
So it's not surprising that people miss this because community spaces are incredibly important, especially for high schools. When we look deeper into the topic of community space, through research, we found that spaces and features like this support social functions, which are incredibly important for vital communities. Research also shows that people prefer outdoor spaces as opposed to indoor spaces for mental health, and that having outdoor seating with shade is proven to help comfort people, especially if it's a mix with shade and light. And so based on these initial interviews and research, we wanted to create a solution that would restore value that the courtyard once brought to the school, and also take this opportunity to build upon it and add life to the community.
One of the people we looked into while doing this was Christopher Alexander, who is an architect and writer and wrote a book called Pattern Language, and we used some of the ideas from this book while creating our gazebo designs.
So we visited the courtyard in the front of the school and mapped out different ideas. We had our entire engineering for social good class come outside to where the courtyard used to be. It's just so that they could look at the area and see what what it would be like. And this was intended to generate a wide range of potential ideas and solutions. And so from these interviews, there were several themes that emerged. We kind of organized them, but the main ones that came were shade, trees, play structures, and places to sit. And these themes were similar to those that we identified in pattern languages. We further developed these ideas into an image board so that we could have people respond to it. For about a week, we interviewed different people, and this gave us a sense of direction for potential solutions. We tallied the images that people preferred, and as you can see, 1 and 6 were the most common, and clear preferences were shown for roofed structures, lots of seating, and large areas. We then created a second image board based on the community feedback, and these were all kind of gazebo-like structures, which were similar to the public outdoor room and other pattern languages patterns that we saw. So we created a mock-up design concept at the site, and in the picture you can kind of see the different stakes, and that was meant to act as what the gazebo shape would be like. And for a week straight, we brought chairs in, and we had different students and teachers and faculty sit in the chairs and experience just the general gazebo building, hopefully. And from this, we learned a lot about spacing, eye contact, distance from other chairs, tables, and roofs, and there were clear preferences shown. We developed several gazebo-like concepts based off of what I said before, the image boards, pattern language design process, and the design concepts in SketchUp you can kind of see there.
Now that we had a clear idea of what we wanted to do, we made a one-to-one scale model of the front of the school so we can put different gazebo designs that we have inside of it and see what they would look like inside of space. This is the same model of the school, but with the gazebo design that we created inside of it. This is just a closer up look of the gazebo design that we created. An inside look and an outside look. There's a ramp for handicap accessibility. These are just some section cuts that builders can use to create architectural plans in case it is actually being built. And just some more cuts. This is a first draft of our bench. It's just to determine what preferences people have for like seat height, backrest, and things like that, since it's one of the more important parts of the gazebo. One of the ideas that came up was whether or not we should use foundation, and so we did some research into that.
So next up, we want to work on getting funding through GoFundMe and different fundraising events throughout the school year. We want to work on getting support from stakeholders. Getting a permit also is something that's high on our to-do list, so we have a few different ways that we're going to do that. And also, we created a club, and we want to get that initiated in the fall of 2025. This club already has 40 active and interested members who would be willing to help build, help get the permit, and help any other things that would be necessary. And so we would love your support to make this project a reality. Thank you.
Excellent.
So this is Elizabeth and Bloom and Naima, Tavaj, and Jeremy were able to
Thank you guys.
Mr. Fable, can I ask that I meet with this group with Mike Gallo, our Director of Operations, so we can talk about getting that work started and what that would look like?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really the intent, is to create those engagements.
Yes.
Thank you.
This was also a larger team, but we're lucky to have Caesar and Alex.
All right, so we are members of EcoSpool. I'm Alexander,
I'm Caesar.
and we're working on 3D printer filament recycling. Are any of you familiar with 3D printing at all? Great. All right, so did you all know that 1/3 of material used in 3D printing is wasted? At EcoSpool, we're trying to do something about this. So, like I said, I'm Alexander. This is Caesar. These are other members of our team. And we are members of the ARHS Engineering for Social Good class.
Okay, so just like a basic what 3D printing is. 3D printing is where we melt down plastic filament and push it out in layers to create a 3D model. Support adhesion and failed prints are wasted. These structures are discarded. So we are mainly focused on PLA since it's the main type of filament and the type that this school uses. Yeah.
And it's not just filament that's a problem.
Each year, 40 billion plastic forks, spoons, and knives are thrown away. These utensils could easily be repurposed into 3D printer filament. We believe our system has the potential to do this. Okay, so our targeted customer are small volume PLA producers, so like individuals and schools like our own.
However, it's not that filament recycling technology doesn't exist, and it's not really particularly complicated, but it's currently very expensive, and it's very hard to refine at home. So this is, these graphs kind of show some of the prices. We found pretty much the top of the line for at-home solutions is about $20,000, and a significantly cheaper option is $3,100. But this is still a very, it's not a very well-researched topic.
Okay, our plan is to create an inexpensive 3D PLA recycling system that is more accessible to small customers.
So we began by our research by looking into various extruder designs, 2 of which are shown here.
So our solution is where we take small wasted PLA parts and shred it up and put it through an extruder to be reused.
So the extruder very basically has a drive system, a heating system, and a frame. The frame will hold everything together, the heating system will melt the plastic, and the drive system will extrude it out a small nozzle into a beautiful thin bit of filament.
Okay, so where we are now is that we are assembling the electronics and as well as testing them and constructing a frame for the extruder, and we've started prototyping the extrusion crap and the hopper designs, and we would also like to refine our like shredder and chip, how we get the chips to make it more efficient.
So what we're looking at next is a flex block club, very similar to our colleagues here, as well as doing some other TAing or independent project stuff during the school day. And we're looking for support to enable the continuation of work on this project. So thank you so much for listening. And of course, any questions? Yes?
So one of the exciting things about 3D printing is that you can use all kinds of different colors. And so what is your plan on handling that so you don't just get brown filament at the end?
So I guess the first bits, the picture we had up, most of the filament that we have currently wasted from the school is green. I guess that's whatever came first. So our first bits of attempts will be some green color. I think once we get to the point where we can consistently get filament extruded from our system, it would probably just be a combination of colors, so it'd be pretty gross, which is great for prototyping. It's not going to look pretty, though, but it will still serve a purpose.
So, I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, you know, you guys are almost ready for a pitch contest. You're not there, but one of the things that occurred to me was that when I was listening to you, I said, wow, all right, it's a good idea, good concept, and there are some steps that need to happen for you to fundraise, even if you're going to go to other sources, like GoFundMe. However, I think with some work and some mentoring and tutoring, that you could get to the point where you could get a really good pitch going with a pitch deck. And once you've had that pitch deck, then I believe that you would be ready to go out and raise funds through either a fundraising platform or others. And so I would encourage you to seek out someone, not me, because I just don't have the time, but however, if you do want to consult with me about getting to the next step in terms of launching this, I'd be more than happy to talk with you.
That would be awesome.
Dr. Z?
So I appreciate the projects, Mr. Fable, and students. I think that I saw where you were talking about recycling the forks, and I looked over at my team because we just had a discussion about forks today before we came over. Are you looking at even, because you said our school as one of your consumers or, right? Your main consumer.
Yeah.
So if you had to pitch this to myself and to the director of operations in how investing in this project or creating an opportunity for this project to move forward would support the school, how much time would you need to do that?
That's a good question.
Can I give you 3 weeks?
It would probably take significantly more than that.
Okay.
This type of, I mean, even looking at 3D printing where you start with something already like a strand, it took many years to refine into what we have now to where you can consistently just send something off to a 3D printer and it'll make it. And so getting to a point with our project of being able to put plastic chips into a machine and getting something out every time that's usable it's going to take a while.
So I think what I'm saying is the end before you said thank you, you said, I'm looking for your support. And what I'm saying is, as a superintendent, I would like, and you had the school listed as one of the supports. So I would like to meet with your team around how does this actually benefit the school and why we should make sure that this project moves forward, whether it's funding, whether it's time, whether it's support in the operations team walking in with you, or even meeting with our finance team around how to pitch and write a 30-second elevator pitch around, but how do I support you in moving this project forward? And I asked Mr. Fable that you work with both groups. Megan has the charge to connect with you so that we could put both groups in a room with myself and Mike, and then I'll include Shannon so that we can talk about, because I love the gazebo project. And from the time I came in here, last year, April 24th was my first time walking the schools. And I saw where there was the opportunity, the photography club, different clubs love to gather outside, but there's no gazebo. So now there's actually the data, the conversation, the design, how do we move that forward? The same thing here, I think economically, for the economy and how we can be supported, this actually is a really great project. And I think we need to talk about how do we support you in moving the project forward, moving forward. So Mr. Fable, I'm open to that. And I've made some great time changes in my calendar. So Megan will be in contact with Mr. Fable, and I'd like to create time for myself, Mike Gallo, and Shannon, our Director of Finance, to meet with both groups and talk about how do we move them forward.
That's tremendous, because that is really the purpose of these presentations and making, right, for the students to have the experience of, when we engage with our stakeholder community, they meet us,
Yes.
right?
That's right.
This is how it happens, right? And so that's a fabulous next step. I'm so appreciative of that. I would really look forward to that.
Thank you.
So,
Jennifer? Hold on.
Mr. Fable, does your class have other projects that didn't get to present tonight?
Yes, we had two other projects, one of which was a 1-quarter project by a student who was only able to work with us for 1 quarter. And then actually the 2 projects I joined together. But this has been running for several years, 2 years now, 3 years. I'll just give an example of a project last last year, which was to build a energy balance model for the high school, right, to understand where we could make it gains with energy efficiency. And the students came to realize that any idea they came up with really wasn't any good until they could measure it and generate the data to assess, right? And so we had a visit with really the guru of building energy design and mentored the students. And to make a long story short, the students designed and made a blower door for the school, including a manual, so that people can use it. So the school now has a blower door that can be used to do actually energy analysis of the building. So that just gives you sort of a flavor, right? And partly we're working on how do we work on curriculum like this, right? Which is by design open-ended, which by intention is how do we learn how to deal with and work fruitfully, concretely with open-ended fuzzy problems of which the world is one. And we do that as teams, right? And so each of these projects came out of something very general and was translated into something very, very specific, right? And so, Mr. Rhodes, to your point about learning how to do a pitch, that is, in my experience, personal experience, a core skill, right?
Yes.
And so this came out, and so that's one of the reasons why this has sort of a very pitch feel. I didn't really have much time to sort of give it, but we really start heading in. This is sort of like an introduction to how do you make a pitch, right? In the most in the most direct, authentic way. So.
I love it.
So anyway, if you choose to meet with me, before you do so, would you please look up model pitches? You can find them. Just go on, look at the model ones. I mean, because they all have the same format. They're almost all the same in terms of how they're laid out, and they're 5 to 15 minutes. And if you look at them, some very famous ones will come up. Take one and say, I want to model ours after that, and then go after it and just meet.
Great. Thank you all so much for coming.
And thank you for letting us see. 7:20 on a Tuesday.
That's right.
Yeah, it's in
Well, you're here. We're here.
Okay. Keep the faith, everybody.
Thank you.
I've given up the ghost.
Somehow I finally managed to get on.
Oh, you did? Which was one?
Okay.
Shall I?
Well, that was awesome. Yes, please do.
I'm calling the Amherst School Committee to order at 7:20 p.m.
No.
It's just
Okay.
connected over.
I am not calling the Pelham School Committee to order because we only have 2 people. My text would not go through.
Can you get those?
Can you wait for a second? And I'll
Sure,
see if I
sure.
can get there.
Sure. As we wait for Pelham, our first order of business is public comment. There are public comment emails posted on board docs for us to view, and when Sarah Beth comes back. Actually, I have access to the voicemails, and there were no public comment voicemails today. I mean, this week since our last meeting. The next item is Chair's update. I don't have an Amherst update, and I will wait for Sarah Beth on the regional update, and we'll wait on Pelham for the Pelham update. The next item is school committee announcements and subcommittee updates. Do any members have announcements or subcommittee updates? Tillman.
So the levered budget, in levered, the select board recommended the budget to be passed, or for the town to pass it with a 2-to-1 vote, so it was not unanimous, but it was seen favorably. So my last act as a school committee member in Leverett will be on Saturday morning to argue why our town residents should vote for the budget. And so with that, I'm ending my term on the school committee. I want to thank everyone for a really interesting time. I've learned a lot. I want to express my gratitude to Sarah Beth, who has been leading the regional committee, and I look forward to have Dr. Z lead the district for a long time and continue the progress we've made. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tillman. Thank you in advance for your final active service on Saturday at town meeting, and thank you for your service on the regional school committee. Back to you, Sarah Beth. And there's William.
Oh, good.
Hi, William.
Hello, I'm here. I might turn my camera off, but I can hear.
That'd be
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Thank you so much, William.
Oh, no problem.
Thomas Creighton is turning his camera
I now call the Pelham School Committee meeting to order at 7:24 PM on April 29th.
I think you have to take roll call attendance.
Pardon?
You have to take roll call attendance.
Oh. Sarah Bess.
Present.
William.
Present.
Thank you. Margaret, present.
Can I ask, Tillman, if you need support, can you send me the information, location, and time for the meeting, and I'll come out too?
Yes, I'll send it to you.
Okay, we had done public, we had gotten up to school committee announcements, subcommittee updates. Are there any other members who have announcements or updates? Deb?
I listened to the Amherst Town Council meeting last night. It's the first I know of it, but I wanna state the date that they penciled in for the topping off ceremony for the new elementary school building, which is the date they put. May 20th, yeah. So I think, is it like definitive?
Yes, it's definitive. What occurred is that my oldest nephew, who is one of my adopted children, is graduating from high school, and so the date was set. However, I will be represented by Shannon, our finance and operations person, and so it is May 20th. That is the date a crane can be there to top it off. So that is a definite date.
What's the time?
I don't think they set the time, but it'll probably be in the morning. I'll send it to the chair.
Thank you. Other, yeah, Sarah?
I could just confirm that Bridget and I, who were on the Joint Capital Planning Committee, that body, which is an Amherst committee, did finish its work and submitted its recommendations to the town manager regarding capital spending. And there are some recommendations for the elementary schools, and also should there be another surplus, and in the fall, if some funds are available, there's some further recommendations for the schools. But it's over to the town manager now.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing, and thank you for getting out in front of that surplus issue this year. I appreciate that.
Is there going to be committee representation to the May 8th Finance Committee for Amherst from either the region? I think the region is going to have representation. Is the Amherst Committee going to be at the May 8th Finance Committee meeting?
But I have not
Okay.
been invited. Are we?
Okay.
I was not invited. I just heard it was at the meeting. They said it was May 8th last night.
Okay.
Shannon and I were asked to present for the budget, so I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that.
So that's
May
at 9 AM, I
I
believe.
don't remember what time it was at.
Yeah.
Thank you. Deb, anything else?
Amherst Town Council budget public forum for the whole budget is May 12th. And I don't have the time.
6:30.
6:30. Virtual. And then I guess the last thing connected with, well, not connected with budgets, is I will be attending the Day on the Hill. Is Sarah going? I'm not gonna go to the MSC thing, because I did that last year. It cost $90, and that was not the relevant part for me. Sarah Bess and I went. But we have several meetings with, scheduled with legislators. It's not the optimal time for advocacy. MASC seems to be tied to a late advocacy day, but we will go and do what we can do to, in particular, we will be encouraging them to fund the rural school budget at a higher level. The governor's budget was higher than the House Ways and Means budget. Both were significantly lower than was recommended by the committee. So that's the big takeaway for us.
Any other school committee announcements or subcommittee updates?
I do have a chair's update.
Okay, great. Let's go back to chair's update and then you can take it away.
So quick subcommittee update, the negotiations team with the APEA met on April 17th to exchange proposals, and we added several new meeting dates as we move into traditional bargaining, and we will meet again on May 7th. To follow up on a little bit from earlier, the Amherst Town Council Finance Committee will have their discussion on the regional school budget on May 8th, and their virtual town budget hearing on the 12th at 6:30. Town meetings are also starting this weekend. Leverett is meeting at their elementary school at 9 a.m. this Saturday, May 3rd. Pelham is next week, May 10th. Also at the elementary school, and Shutesbury will be 9 a.m. on May 31st. Okay, so then I met with the president of the Amherst Town Council and the chair of the Amherst School Committee late last week to discuss and provide feedback on a proposal that was co-authored by Lynn Greismer and Kathy Schoen for a 4 Towns Fiscal Sustainability Task Force. Lynn explained that I don't know if it was she or they had met with members of the select boards and finance committees from the other 3 towns. I also was at the Amherst Town Council meeting last night for their full council discussion on the task force. My final takeaways between the meeting with Lynn and the meeting with, and watching the town council meeting, is that there is a desire for more in-depth conversation and sharing of information, as one counselor called it, between the 5 entities, the 4 schools and the regional school committee. And for the 4 towns meeting format to be more of a joint meeting rather than the school committee inviting the towns. Lynn was clear in our conversation last week that it wasn't an attempt to tell the regional school committee on how to spend their budget, more as a collaboration of how to come together. And the other piece is that the conversations need to start soon. It's like, personally, I think between the several different task forces and the committees that have been discussed over the past month, there are some good bones to work with. It's clear we need a place for information sharing and a way to gather shared understanding, which I think is a piece that is going to be tricky as we come together, and we're going to need to be collaborative and assume best intentions. I think that is also going to be hard, but I think we have to do it anyway. I'm hoping that for ourselves, our work as Portrait of a Graduate unfolds will be a really good place for that to start, especially I think for us as the school. My personal opinion is knowing what our end goal is makes it a lot easier to make a path on how to get there. And that is my chair's update. Okay, any questions? Ready to keep going? Excellent. We do not have any gifts. We do have a lot of minutes that I can't open.
Do you want this?
You want the passport?
I just want my computer to work.
It's very slow.
I can't get on either.
I can try one more time.
I can't even get to that.
Yeah.
I'm on the agenda, but I can't, I mean, it's just like,
Oh, no. Oh, thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Look at that. So many things open. Okay,
now I've
so
got an internet error.
Jennifer.
So,
Sorry.
so for what it's worth, the December 23rd and the January 22nd minutes are just going into executive session. So without objection, I'll move, or rather, I will just move, to approve those two sets of minutes together. December 23rd, 24, and January 22nd, 25.
I'll second that.
I'm moving for the region.
Oh, right.
Okay. Oh, okay. Any further discussion? Excellent. Bridget?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
What do I do? Yes.
Sarah Tillman?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Sarah Beth, yes. William?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
9-0-0. All right. That was the 12th.
The
No.
20, December 20,
23 and
122, right.
I wrote the wrong numbers down. Okay. February 26th?
I have a comment.
Yep.
That was the budget hearing, so I think it should say as much in the minutes. It just sounds like a regular meeting, but it wasn't.
Oh, okay. Jennifer?
I move that we approve the February 26 minutes as amended.
Second.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Bridget? Yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tillman?
Yes.
Irv?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Sarah Beth, yes. William?
Yes.
All right. I move we approve the minutes of March 11th.
Second.
Any discussion? Edits? Bridget?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Tillman?
Yes.
Irv?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Sarah Beth, yes. William?
Yes.
I move we approve the minutes of 3:14.
Second.
Any further discussion? Uh, Bridget? Sarah?
Yes.
Tillman?
Yes.
Irv?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Sarah Beth, yes. William?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Superintendent's update.
I'll start talking for time. I think we're switching. So first of all, thank you to the community members, parents, everyone who wished me well while I was recovering. There was there was emails, and some individuals took advantage of seeing my cell phone number in the, and it's okay because that's what it's there for. And they did send some text messages that were really sweet. So I do want to say thank you publicly to the communities and everyone at large, and to the committee members who reached out, sent emails, sent text messages, and even told me to get off my email when I did have to. So thank you so much. It speaks to the empathy and compassion of the great citizens within these towns and within the work that we do. As always, I focus in on our 3 district priorities: student safety and well-being, healing and stabilization of the district, and data and accountability for equity. It has been, just coming back in, it's been very interesting. When you step out of the office for one day, it's like you miss 4. You do not want to know how it feels, but my team has worked very hard, and I want to say thank you to the 4 EDs who are taking support in this pilot, and they did a really great job of keeping the district running, and more so keeping the communications flowing. So sporting highlights: spring sports, lacrosse is doing well. this season. Boys lacrosse have 5 wins to 2 losses. Girls lacrosse 7-2. So as always, go Hurricanes. It is wonderful. Same with tennis. Boys are rocking it they're kind of even keel 4-4. Girls tennis is 7-1. And so more games are coming up this week, including softball at Pope Francis tomorrow at 4:30. And both ultimate disc teams playing at UMass this Saturday at 9 a.m. in the morning. I am hoping to get there. Let's see what time Tillman says the meeting is. It's 9, the meeting is at 9 a.m. Okay, so I'll go to the next one because I need the funding to keep them playing. All right, so really, really excited. In terms of our regionals or school updates, and at the middle school, students in Dr. LaRoche's class worked with Mr. Madison on the Art for Social Good. Their work is currently on display at the Arms Lobby and will be at the Amherst Survival Center starting May 5th. At the high school, the robotics team participated in a Rams Robot Rally and the first Tech Challenge. Those students were honored with the Motivate Award at the Rams Robot Rally. The majority of the majority of things that I would like to say in terms of what's happening in our classrooms is the fact that in every school across all 3 districts, what you see is teachers working hard every day, students engaged, parents coming in and supporting learning. But what we're transitioning to, especially at this time, is this is the middle of MCAS, the last possible parts of MCAS. So this week, a lot of our administrators and schools are finishing out MCAS. And as you know, in the district, we are moving towards our portrait of a graduate, but our strategic work as well. So there's a lot of great work happening in the classrooms, but we are coming to that wonderful point of, testing season, assessment season. And now that we've gone through a lot of the student-centered things, there were some topics on the last joint meeting that we were asked to give an update on. The track and field project is currently moving forward. I think right now, I have to confirm Shutesbury, but I think the only town that we're waiting on to vote is Leverett, for sure. So that's currently where we are. Contracts have been signed, and so we are working with the company on the design. The scoreboard design has been submitted. We are also on track for the start of the work at the end of the school year, probably June, and then for it to be usable spring of 2026. What that includes is like the discussion and the design, even like the meter marks have been set. So I really have to thank Victoria Dawson. She has been really boots on the ground with this from the beginning, and now with her coordinating with the coaches, making sure that she works with the vendors to make sure that we have a usable track. But what that also means is I think initially there was a conversation that we would be out of some field space. So she is looking for field space for the fall because we are at this time, I think previously was projected 2 fields. We're actually going to be out of 3 fields in the fall. So she's working to identify field space for the fall. And again, thank you to Dave and Bob. They've been very supportive in moving the project forward. And so these conversations continue to move around the track. So that's where we are with the track. I'm going to pause here.
So, I want to, you might contact Hampshire College because
Okay.
they've discontinued all of their athletics programs.
Okay.
And they might have fields that we can use.
The good part is I know individuals from my team that listen to school committee meetings, and Victoria's one of them. So she probably heard it. So if I forget to tell her Hampshire College, she's listening. But I'll definitely let her know.
Margaret?
I've had a couple people ask me, is the field going to have lights? They've
Yes.
heard that it's not going to have lights.
I know the one discussion I was at, we were talking about where or if the lighting, but I would have to confirm that. I think I don't remember it not having lights because we would have to use it, but
I think
it has lights.
It has lights.
Yeah.
I thought it was an ad alternate, and
Right.
we are able to fund all of the
Ad
ad
alternate.
alternates.
Right, yeah.
So, yes?
Yes.
The
Yes,
big
if there's money.
There
We
is
were
money?
told there would be money.
There would be, I think that's a part of us going back for the
The
extra
CPAC.
funds and stuff. But the big discussion isn't the lights right now. The big discussion is the maintenance of the field. But we're not going to get into that. so we're going to skip that part. But I do remember there being lights. It was because we had a discussion about placement. But I can confirm. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost track of where we were. I know you were authorized to sign the contract, is that right? So we have, contract has been signed?
Design and I've been signing contracts. So yes,
And do
The
we-
construction contract?
I don't think I signed the construction contract.
Okay.
I think the chair signs the construction contract. One of us signed it.
I just really want to know what the name of our company is.
Okay, I can get that for you.
Oh,
So,
You want to know
No.
the contractor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can,
I can look it up when I get internet.
my
Yeah.
internet starts working
I've been
again.
trying to get it.
There's this guy.
Okay, send name of contractor. That's fine. Okay. We're good? On track?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Facilities update. I have to say thank you to my operations team over facilities. They have been awesome under the guidance and leadership of Mike Gallo. We will be issuing a public update to everyone. I know the first update that we sent out, we publicly stated about the middle school and what was found. I believe in transparency. Everything is really public record anyway. So, we shared it, and we shared it with a plan so that everyone can see. And we've been updating that plan. So every time a step is completed, we put the update in the plan. And so the things that I want to say is, so the middle school mold concerns, mold level inside were similar or equal to the levels outdoors. And that's how they kind of measure it. If inside exceeded outdoors, then it would be concerning. Remediation of the music storage room and instrument room was completed. One of the things that we talked about was the shelves, sheet music, everything were clean and disinfected. But it wasn't sheet, the packets weren't sheet by sheet. So a lot of them, there wasn't identifiable, but they were placed in protective seals and placed back. So they are in protective seals so that we can go to the next step. Practice rooms 1 and 2 were both clean and disinfected on April 26th. A lot of this work, I believe, happened last week when we were out. And over the weekend, the library, C3L, C6, and the family center have been clean and disinfected. We've identified contractors, and we've received a lot of community support. And just individuals reaching out saying, hey, we can support you in this way with this issue that you have. And so I'm really grateful to the community in that. But we've moved forward, so we will definitely be issuing an updated chart so everyone can see what we have completed. The ceiling tiles, facilities have gone through and inspected all ceiling tiles. The needed ceiling tiles have been replaced or scheduled to be replaced. So we are moving forward on that. The high school room concerns, facilities has gone through and inspected, maintenance has dispatched a custodian to inspect all rooms in the high school. It's very similar to what we did in the middle school. Again, we know with our roof condition in the middle school, we're gonna have to consistently monitor, and in the high school, there are areas that we would have to monitor, areas of concern. Rooms of concern have been cleaned, disinfected, and otherwise addressed. Again, the environment, if we want students to learn and to be successful, they have to be in an environment that is welcoming and ready for them. And so the operation team understands that, and we prioritize student health, staff health, and just making sure that everyone is in a place and an environment that is conducive for learning.
One of the things that came up, at least in one of the rooms, was there was an air filter that hadn't been replaced in many years.
It was replaced.
Is there a way of monitoring the other ones to make sure that that doesn't happen?
I'll have to confirm with Mike, but I think that a part of his plan moving forward, after he gets through this initial phase, is putting that punch list in place. So I'll confirm with him and bring it forward. I think that that's going to be very critical in operations. We've hired our facilities manager and our food service manager. So somebody started last week and somebody starting next week. I don't want to mix it up, but by the end of May, the support positions for facilities should be in place. One of the individuals is from, he applied, so I can't say we stole him, but applied from the town of Amherst, and, from what I've heard, it has been a benefit, and they're seeing it as a loss, so our gain, yay. And so it's really, I think the team has their goals and their marching orders, and we'll be able to at least maintain our facilities so that we can have our environments working. But yes, I'll ask.
Sarah?
I think I remember reading in the first report on the work, must be 2 or 3 weeks ago now, that I think in the music room, the problem was not the leaking roof, it was the HVAC, and maybe it's this issue, the filter issue that Deb just mentioned, that it didn't in fact have anything, I mean, the rest of the problems elsewhere, yes, but not there.
I wish I could get on my email. But so the music room had actually, and I know it's the music room, but it had actually not been in use and was closed off for a very long time. And so the work was finally done. That's the work that I spoke of, was finally done this weekend. That and a portion, I think, of the hall and auditorium based on the email, but I don't want to be misquoted. So that work was completed. And so I have to double check if there's additional things that was wrong, because I want to make sure I say the right things. I'll follow up with Mike on what the whole thing was.
Well, we'll get a final report, I
Yes.
guess, that's fine.
You get an update on where we're
Thank
at.
you.
I was also asked to, I believe it was about the posting. It was mentioned that they saw that the summit principal position has been posted. Yes, it has. One of the things in running a district you think about is continuity and consistency in leadership. The current principal has indicated his intent to retire, but because of where that entire retirement date falls, it would cause us to be without a leader in the school at times. So what we opted to do as a district team, and I think this plan had already started prior to my arrival in terms of discussion, was to have a principal that would be able to come in, kind of do like a support, and carry the school through the whole full year. So that's where we're looking at. ARM's interim principal has been hired. The interim assistant, the interim principal is the current assistant principal, Mr. Wang Rodriguez. What we looked at, one, the point in the school year that we are at, I looked at that, and two, bringing in someone new at that point to carry the school to the end. We looked at internal applicants who had their licensure, not internal personnel, not applicants, personnel who had their licensure, but also what was the least impact to student instruction with pulling individuals from classrooms where we were already tight for teachers. And so Dr. GB, who was a dean, has her license. I don't know which license it is, but I know she has her license. And so she, after conversation, she was willing to support the leadership as the assistant principal. And she is currently finishing her packaging for full licensure anyway. So these two individuals are moving forward as the interim leadership team. The permanent position starts July 1, and I plan to make an announcement by the end of May who the permanent hire would be for the middle school. The regional calendar, these are just dates of events that are coming forth in the region. And Seth, thank you so much. And as always, I want to say thank you. And the quote for this week is, "Growth is never by mere chance. It is the result of forces working together." James Kashpini. And so thank you, everyone. I think that where we are at so far and the progression that we've made as a district and districts is about us having a growth mindset, but also us pulling our collective voices and passions together to move everything forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Z. Any final questions? Excellent. All right. Next up is Portrait of a Graduate for Strategic Planning and Budgeting. Excellent. Welcome. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back and to see some of this work move forward. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to. Oh, you want to? You could run it off yours. I was just.
It's easier, I thought you would be easier.
Oh, perfect. Okay. And I appreciate the opportunity to be before you again, sharing some of the progress. So just as a reminder, the whole idea of a strategic plan is that you have a plan with performance measures and aligned budget, but you also have performance routines that looks at successful implementation so that the plan isn't just a paper, but it's an evolving, growing plan that continues to be implemented well to ensure that your students graduate for success after high school. And so that's why we started first with the Portrait of a Graduate. What do we want our students to be able to know and do when they leave? And it's not just academics. And so what we did was we had our first session where we had stakeholders that came together that included district leaders and staff, school committee members, and community members as well as parents. And I know a couple of you were there, so I'm so excited to see you. And I hope you like what has evolved. And then during that first session, we identified, so what are those skills or those competencies that students should develop by the time they graduate? And it was important to take a look at all students so that you may have a set of skills, but those skills may look different for each student. But the students can relate to those skills, and those are skills necessary regardless of the path they take after high school. And then we drafted a graph with graphic representation with skills. And then we conducted 5 focus groups. We had 3 from the community members, parents, and then we had middle school and high school students also as focus groups, which was really exciting. The feedback was then analyzed and revisions were made. What I want to share with you is that the learnings from the feedback really focused in fell into 4 areas. The content. Did you have the right skills, the competencies? Were they ones that all students could see themselves with? Use, how do you use that Portrait of a Graduate? What is it going to be used for? Especially by not only just the school district, but also your families and your students. And then the implementation of it. How's it going to be used? And then the graphic representation. What was interesting is we had more comments about the graphic representation. And we had more comments from the students than anybody, which I was really excited to see and to hear. And the quality of the comments were very, very good. We were able to really look and analyze those and come out with some key changes that needed to be made. For example, in content, there was a desire to have more emphasis on technology skills. They didn't see those technology skills being incorporated, and how to moderate that use to be able to have a healthy lifestyle, critical consumer of technology. Making sure that all students would be represented in the graphic and the descriptions. Also making sure that there was some culture or diversity representation. The implementation, there were a lot of comments, and particularly from the students, saying that our teachers are teaching some of this, which is a really important thing to know. You're not starting from scratch, which was really exciting to hear them say it. And then again, the most comments were on the graphical representation. So for example, many of them felt that the graphic representation really represented more of the past than the future. Really needing to look forward a little bit, be more modern looking. And also making sure that it represents some of the future pursuits that are a variety of pursuits, not just college bound. And so we took all of that together and we redid the graphic And you have a copy of it in front, on the front, and then they, one other comment was it was too wordy, way too wordy. And the students actually suggested bullets. So we redid the portrait and came up with 6 critical kinds of things that we wanted the students to be able to do. To be adaptive problem solvers, critical thinkers, innovative creators, responsible citizens, self-determined individuals, and skilled communicators. And then on the back, what we did was compiled all of the information we gathered from the first session with the feedback. And we identified 4 bullets under each one to kind of further describe what we mean by that. We included, for example, the diversity with the adaptable problem solver, and the critical thinker, being able to be diligent and seek relevant factual information, evaluates and uses information, including digital information. We also made sure that we had all identities represented. Rather than listing each group separate, we kind of put it together and say all identities, regardless of how you identify yourself. All identities, that's what we want to make sure is represented. We also included the advocates for equity and inclusion for all, the ethical, moral, and technological and financial decisions to make positive impact both locally and globally. We also included self-determined individual, and under that we heard from folks saying students need to be able to take care of themselves and also be able to advocate for themselves. They need to be able to demonstrate empathy and concern for themselves as well as all other identities, really building that student up and maintaining a positive attitude towards learning and personal growth while pursuing both academic skills as well as competencies to be successful. We also included icons that represent different careers that are not just college-bound careers. An artist, a gardener, a farmer, construction. We really wanted to make sure that students could see that these skills apply to a variety of careers regardless of the path that you choose. And so this is where we ended up with, after we took the feedback and then redesigned it. Again, we wanted to make sure that it represented all students. And then when we first had our session, we talked about learning pathways. And one of the things that was suggested by students as well as some of the community members is to engage the students in this process. So having the students take this at each level and say, this is what it looks like for me at elementary school. This is what it would look like for me at middle school and at high school. And engage those students in creating their own pictures of what that looks like looking at this ultimate graduate. And I thought that was a very good suggestion. So rather than us describing it at each transition level, engage the students in doing that. So what we've done so far is we've dealt with our target. We now have a target that we can say, this is really what our aim is. And so now what we can do is start to build our vision and our mission and our values regarding that target. What is the foundation that we need as districts and schools to be able to really see that graduate come to fruition? And taking a look at those roles and responsibilities, and then doing an analysis. If this is really where we want to go, then where are we now? And really being able to do a deep dive into not just the strengths and the weaknesses, but looking at opportunities, and opportunities that you need to leverage that you haven't been leveraging, or opportunities to go and seek out. And then also threats. And we put threats there, which is called the SWOT analysis, because you have to look at some of those external factors and internal factors that can be a threat to you being successful in this. And really identifying those actionable ones that you can actually act on. There are going to be some outside threats that you won't be able to influence. So let's prioritize our energies on the ones that we can mitigate. And from there, developing strategies and measures. And we develop the strategies as a theory of action, and it helps us do a couple of things. It states, if we do this, this is the work that we need to do in order to have this come to fruition for every single student. If we do this, then what is the change in the adult practices? Because you're not going to get different student results if you don't change adult practices. And those practices are at the central level, as well as the district level, as well as the school level. So you've got to really look at that. And then once we start to measure the changes in practices, we then start to see the growth with the students. And so that's our work over the next 2 days, is really starting to get that overall high-level planning. So that's what we're going to be doing. At the end of May, we have another session where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. What's the structure that we need? Because one of the things that we know is that you can't do it all yourselves. You're going to have to prioritize what you start when. And also, it shouldn't fall on one school or one principal or one department at the central office. It needs to be a collaborative effort. So building that, what we call practice-focused collaboration, where you're looking at those practices, but you're collaborating together to do this work. And then looking at, in July and September, your budgeting. Because now that you have the plan, you want to align your budget, you want to leverage your budget to implement the plan. And that's a shift, because oftentimes we take the budget and we plan to spend. And so this is a real shift, saying, no, this is our plan. How do we then make those decisions and leverage those? So those are the next steps. And we're going to start tomorrow. One of the things that we're going to talk about in June and July is strategic budgeting. And so a couple of people may have some questions about that. This framework is one that we really work with, is you look at understanding the current state, assessing the needs, which we're going to start to do this week, and then prioritizing the needs. And the prioritization really needs to look at the impact on students versus effort. And we've got an exercise that we'll do with prioritizing. Because again, you can't do it all at once. And then you start to stagger what you're going to start when. And then really looking at cost effectiveness and making those what we call trade-off decisions. Being able to have your priorities, being able to look at your programs and start to evaluate what is working and what is not, and why, what's the root cause, and then taking a look at maybe starting small and scaling up as you see that success. And that's again a shift, because oftentimes we say, okay, district, everybody's going to do this at one time. And so it's really taking a look at all those factors and being more strategic. And then we'll align your resources and determine where you need to make partnerships, which ones do you have now that are working well that you need to leverage more, things like that. So that'll be all that process in terms of taking your budgeting process and aligning it. A couple of things, an example is, here is a place that we worked in which they said, these are our areas of focus: literacy, targeted math support, course completion, early literacy, reading supports. That was all on the academic side. But if you notice, they decided to target the top 3 first. Let's start that initiative first, and then start to build and add on as we work through the 5 years, so that they're really taking a look at it strategically, what was the first need they needed to do. And they did that through prioritizing and taking a look at current data. And then creating a 5-year budget and saying that this is our projected budget over the 5 years, and taking a look at the funds so that you can then take a look at, so how are we doing with this work, and are we getting the return on our investment? And that's the exciting part. We're seeing much more emphasis on that, and having the data to take a look at that each year so that you can make adjustments according to your improved progress. Again, our emphasis is going to be on performance management, using that data and that feedback loop so that as you have your plan, you'll have strategies and objectives for 5 years. But as you start to implement the first year, you'll learn some things that you'll apply the second year, and you may do some tweaking that second year. And that second year will build out the third year. And you'll continue this continuous improvement process so that it is an active process, not just a stagnant plan. And that's what we're working towards. Any questions? I went over a lot.
Bridget.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate the process. I think that it's great that we're thinking deeply about this. And the other thing that I loved is the focus group and the students' feedback. I found a couple of pieces in there that I agreed with them with, and then you switched to another slide. What I noticed is they said, oh, I'd like to have, like with this piece, have the academics more present or foregrounded. And that's sort of what I noticed as well, is like, I'm thinking, okay, where's the piece where they're like deep and capable readers, and where the numeracy skills, will keep them from being tricked by simple turns of Elon Musk's phrases or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, so where to reach this, some of the skills, and then you jump to the slide where you showed the math and the reading, and I'm feeling like maybe I'm missing the in-between piece.
So what we'll be doing is we're gonna be developing our overarching student-focused goals. And then from there, our strategies will get into. So what skills do we need to build right now? Oh, literacy, and that's how they got to those ones that were up there. They said, no, we need to work on K2 and literacy. That became a strategy for them. And they looked at the high school and said, what do we need to do more of? And they weren't offering a variety of courses and looking at things like distance learning and things like that. That came out of their portrait, and then their overarching student-focused goals. And then the strategies gets into that deep work. And then you've got progress targets as you're implementing those.
Yeah, I think like one thing I'd like is if like I've always thought of Amherst as having this great blend of like striving for equity and striving for excellence. I know that those are aspirational, right? But I always think of that. But like having that sort of explicit for the students or the people who get it in the one pager might be nice. And just as one final thing, I think that piece on the digital piece, the way the students mentioned really wanting the technological sort of citizenship and knowledge and all those pieces woven through, I thought that was a really cool finding, so thank you.
Yeah, and what I would say is that this is the beginning, because once we have your student-focused goals, that will go with this. And then once we have the strategies, you'll start to see the through line that puts it all together.
I wanted to get a clarifying question, Bridget. So are you saying that you want us to explicitly talk about academics in this?
I feel
In the
like
portrait?
that. Yeah, go ahead, tell me.
No, I'm in line. I'm giving you full
Yeah.
support.
No.
So I guess for me to be, this is the outcome, right? If we talk about business, and this is how I see it. So I'm needing clarity. This is the outcome. This is the individual that we are, the graduate that we are transitioning into the world, right? So it's about, these are the skills that we expect for you to walk away from us with. And to get there, we have to put forth the academic program and the instruction for you to be this thinker, this critical thinker, this problem solver, this innovator. Where would you see that fitting in under here?
Perfect. Yeah.
Because I also know that we're not only about academics.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
So where would you see that fitting in?
I was talking to myself in my head and being like, I don't want to sound like the 3 R's person, Like, these are all goals I fully and strongly support. The thing that I would say is like, okay, we've got an adaptable problem solver. That person can't be an adaptable problem solver without understanding data deeply and how numbers work and how the pieces come. Or the critical thinker needs to be a deep reader so that they can analyze those pieces. And I feel like for young people, like if one of the audiences of this is young people, one of the audience of this is parents, and then of course like what our goals are as a district, let's be explicit about what those pieces are of what we expect. I'm just maybe like feeling like people who, maybe I'm a little annoyed of people who think, oh, I got an A in that class and I didn't even have to read the book. But I want people to go ahead and be able to dive in and see that as what they're aspiring to, like right at the start.
So for example, a strategy could be that if we focus on the use and the analysis and use of data across our curriculum or across our instruction, then our students will learn some of those problem-solving skills. That's where you start to say, yes, we need to do that, we need to do that. That's getting into the work. And so again, when you look at these together, you'll start to say, oh, now it's fitting together.
I'm also wondering if it goes into mission and vision. I know it's Tillman and William.
Yep, I have Tillman, Deb, and William.
So exactly the same concern. I agree with every one of the top titles that we have. We want to have adaptable problem solvers, critical thinkers, and so on. But the bullets beneath that seem to describe how we get to that are utterly missing the academics. If you can only approach, so I'll take the first example, right? If you can only approach problems with an equity lens and you consider diverse experiences of others, and you collaborate with others and give feedback, and you work towards an inclusive and affirming solution, there is no substance with that. It is all what I would describe as soft skills, which are very important to be successful in today's environment. But we have to be clear that this cannot be achieved without all the things that Bridget mentioned: rock-solid math skills, ability to use data, reading, writing, foreign language, appreciation for music and arts, knowledge of history. I apologize if I left anything out, but you know, these are the things we must have, and that requires, you know, learning, like traditional learning. That's hard. It's not just about talking nice things. Otherwise, it's totally vacuous. And if we don't put this here, then people may think that they can get away without doing the hard work. You can only be that person that we have here if one does the hard work. And I don't see this anywhere here. And to me, I mean, a simple metric is, will our graduates get into the best colleges in the United States? We may not all agree that that's one of the things that we want to achieve, or that it's not the path for everyone. I'm totally clear on that. That means they have to be good at the SAT. Not a single thing here is tested on the SAT.
So two things. I hear you, and I acknowledge what it is that you're specifically asking for us to call out. I also think that there are individuals who, to pass the SAT, need to be able to evaluate, need to be able to analyze, need to be able to actively apply their understanding into action. Like, there are things that you have to do to, I can teach you how to read, but and I can have you understand what comprehension is, but it is the application and what you do with it next that we're also looking for. So I'm saying, when I heard you say about the bullets under it, the bullets under it describes what that person is able to kind of do as an adaptable problem solver. But there is a call or a request about specifically stating the action that they are doing to problem solve. That's how I'm rationalizing it. I'm rationalizing that for me to be a critical thinker, I have to be a very good reader, and I have to comprehend, and so I need to call out those skills that the academics, is that what we're at? We're asking for that specific academically prepared, who is academic. That's why I asked Bridget, where under here do you see that coming in? And maybe it's just an overarching statement, but I think that that's where that also goes into the vision and mission of the district as well. Like calling out that specifically, our mission is to academically prepare students for excellence moving forward. And this is the type of graduate that we will prepare through our academic programs through this work. So I can see both. I don't agree that it fits here, but I think that it's not a me process. I think it's a broader scope process in terms of the individual and the programming and what are we going to do to create opportunities for this. But I can see also where if there is a call to put that line explicitly, we can probably put it in there.
So can I ask one question? Just to clarify, so that first one I thought was a good example, approaches problems. So we're to say approaches problems using data analysis and research through an equity lens? Because data implies that math, that research is the reading, that analysis is all of that.
I'm not sure I want to get into the wordsmithing of how it should be called out. To me, half of the bullets underneath each point should be about fundamental academic knowledge and skills that has been practiced and successfully achieved. And then the other half can be about and those what I would describe as the hard skills, right? And then the soft skills, which I feel the entire page is about, is what's there on top. And I'm not saying that we should only do hard skills, but I'm worried that a student reads this and says, oh, I don't need to practice math. As long as I put an equity lens on everything, I'm okay. And that's not what we want. We want both, and we have to call it out. And if you don't say that the problem solver has experience in solving problems, has the knowledge just to make meaningful statements about the problem and analyze it, and has the skills to use data or whatever it is that's applicable to the problem, then we can't get to the other pieces because there is no foundation on which this is based.
I want to say I agree, and I say that is in a portrait, but what's going to come from the work that we're going to do in terms of strategic planning and everything else is going to even tie back to the fact that the region is now working on a promotion retention policy and a graduation policy, right? And we have courses, we can talk about that we feel are required for students to graduate. And I think we only need, two math? How many math to graduate from? Yeah, two math courses. So we're asking for academic excellence and different things, but then does the programming currently match? So I think that's where Allison is saying it's going to come into the strategies as well, because we need to build towards this and towards the foundation. And, elementary, we move students forward without a plan to address any interventions or gaps in their skills. And that's going to come forward in terms of the work. So I agree that we should put something in here that's in each one that concretely speaks to the academic and hard skills that we're going to implement. That's also going to identify that the district is identifying in a strategic plan the strategies and things that we need to do. The committees need to, and I'm glad all three are here, are going to need to commit to, we're talking about this academic excellence, what are the gaps in our policies that don't drive that academic excellence and that foundation as well. So we're going to get the work done, and I think I can see where that comes in terms of the hard, concrete, like this is who was trained to, and like you said, data analysis, problem solving, we have those standards. I think it could be done, who comprehends well, like those critical, that verbiage to speak to the hard skills. I can see that in the academic excellence. But when we get to the work of creating the system to have this graduate, there is work on both ends that is going to have to be done.
And I'll also add that as we start building the strategies and the actions and the collaborative teams, we may come back and visit. Just like after the first year with the strategic plan, we're going to have to tweak it as we're working with it.
Good.
Hi, I struggle with this whole thing. I look at the goal, and I love it, right? The regional public schools and its districts will have a strategic plan with performance measures, an aligned budget, and performance routines to successfully implement their plan to ensure each student graduates prepared for success after high school. And then I'm stuck. I have a hard time seeing the inclusivity in this for different learners. I have a hard time with, honestly, with the premise that you take an entire educational system, a 13-year system. Some of our students are here for the full 13 years, and some of them are not. Some of them come and go. And it feels reductionist to me. You reduce that process to two sides of a sheet of paper. And I understand that that's how this is done, but that just goes against my grain, and I'm trying to put that aside. But I have a hard time with the premise. I attended, session 1, and I made the comment at the time, and I haven't seen anything that informs me any differently. It was sparsely attended, and I've been in this district as a parent for 20 years, and without buy-in with teachers, doesn't matter how beautifully constructed the rest of it is. They didn't participate in the process, and there were no active teachers in the session that I attended, and then the focus groups, I don't see staff in there. I see community members, parents, middle school and high school students. So to me, there's just, how do you know this is complete? How do you know the process? I mean, we have a schedule. Is that how we do it? The portrait is whoever came together those 3 days, plus whoever, it's defined by a very small number of people, and the most important people in my mind, I don't see their representation here. So I struggle with the premise, the process. Once you get there, my colleagues have talked about, the results, and I have a hard time, again, seeing the inclusivity in this. So I'm not sure I'm on board with any part of it except the end goal. So those are just they weigh very heavily on me.
So I like to clarify for everyone listening, because I don't want it to seem, the statement was made, and I know that that's the perception, but individuals were invited, teachers were invited, different individuals were invited to the sessions, just like they were invited to the sessions that are happening tomorrow. They did not attend, whether it was for lack of coverage and so when that didn't happen, when individuals didn't attend, after the first day, there was a larger group the first day than the second day. After individuals didn't attend the first day, the conversation in the debrief was, let's create opportunities to get more voices in the room. The focus groups were not a part of the contract. Dr. Leyland volunteered her time to host those 5 focus groups to make sure that we were able to have larger voices in the room. A part of the session tomorrow, the first half of the session, is revisiting the portrait so that the educators who are in the room can have the opportunity to also voice and to give addition. And that is why I keep asking. That's why I asked Bridget and Tim, what are you specifically saying? Where can you see this? Because even now we are garnering feedback from the committee. So it is an iterative process that will continue to grow, but I want to clarify that for the community and for everyone there so that it doesn't seem, and because of, and I am sensitive to this because of how I have been portrayed, so I want to make sure everyone understands, not that you're saying it, but I am saying because of how I have been, I am sensitive to the fact of it, and I want to make sure it is quite clear to the community, individuals were invited and could not attend, thus, thank you, Dr. Leyland extended herself into 5 additional sessions, focus groups that she hosted, and we have additional opportunities for educators. It's kind of like the old adage that you can, yes, but you can't make them drink. And so there is the same way how I don't think I want to be clear. This does not define the whole process. So, and I know, because I think the first thing you were saying, the premise of we're isolating 12 years of a system down to one, like a front and back page, that I am trying to be mindful of how we present things, and I'm going to ask the whole committee to, I know this is a public meeting, it's a business meeting, but we need to be mindful of how we present, because it resonates and it sits with individuals, and sometimes information shifts. What I think is happening is this is stage one, and that's why each time we're moving forward, I've asked Dr. Leyland to come and present publicly where we're moving towards. This is our goal and target and model of, if we look at education as a business, our graduates are our products, right? Our graduates are who we send into the world and who we shift and who we say, this is what we're moving towards. These are just the critical things that we've identified, which we saw with the product with the engineering group as as individuals who are innovative and creating and moving forward. We're trying to say that this is something that we aim towards, and what do they look like? The next step, again, is moving into what are our goals, what's our mission, our vision, our goals that we're gaining towards. That, again, will also be an iterative process. So in a system where everyone has an opinion but doesn't always come to the table, it is often hard when invitations are extended and you don't come to the table, but then when it is presented, it is often, we talked in a training today about the squeak. The louder voices or the fewer have and this is not for you, Deb, this is just for everyone. So I'm asking that when we share things out to the community, when we send out invites, sign up, come, extend. Like, we are doing this because this is not just a central office or a district initiative. This is all of us and what we are putting forward, but individuals have to attend. They have to lend their voices to the opportunities.
The other thing I'll mention is that if you notice, we didn't say approve this. This is part of that process. It really is. So that as we start to work tomorrow and Thursday, we may come back and revisit. As we do May session, come back and revisit. We may come up with some overarching goals, and then in May come back, and as we start to build the strategies, it's like, oh, wait a minute, we gotta go back and look at this, because maybe we didn't explain that clear enough. That is why it's a process, and why it's not, let's get a small team together in a room in a retreat and build a plan and then give it to everybody. So, and the purpose of this is to give you progress and to show how we're starting to work and build this. And by the end of the process, you'll have something that you'll be able to start to implement really well, with measures and with routines that you can do that in a collaborative way, not a separate way. So again, I hope, I probably should have started with that. It's not, okay, put your stamp on it. This is where we are. We're gonna continue this work, and we're gonna continue to build through this process. And the only other comment I would say is that I know the superintendent and Megan are working to make sure that more people are at these sessions. We talked about the poor attendance and what we can do to make sure that others are. And as the word of the work gets out, you'll see others starting to join and others starting to join, which will be really exciting. Waiting for the perfect time when you have every single person in the room is just not gonna happen. And your students don't have that time. You've got 11th and 12th graders, but you've got little ones. The students don't have the time. So that's why, again, I would ask that you trust the process. And we're gonna continue to give you updates and progress. Take your feedback and write all of your input down so that we can then incorporate that into the work as we go.
William, are you still here?
I am, yes.
Excellent. You're up.
Okay, so I had a couple questions. It's probably because I'm not there, but I know that the poster of the Portrait of the Graduate used to have the flags on it. Is it now the two front and back pages that are in the handout that's attached?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm trying to think how to, I feel like Deb has said that it's not very inclusive, and I kind of have those similar feelings, and I voiced those at one of the other sessions. I do think if we want more people to come, I think we need to make sure that maybe we try to, invite individuals with more of a, I guess, upfront. It's going to be 3 weeks away, or 4 weeks away, or a month away. I feel like some of our timelines have been kind of on the faster side, and unfortunately, I'm not available tomorrow as I'm out of town. I also have, concerns with ADI, being on all of the literature that we're on these handouts and going through and looking at what that company has done on their research and different backgrounds. I do have some concerns for the queer community, how this company is representing all. So I haven't seen that we haven't been representing all, but I do have a lot of concerns over who ADI is and what their online presence shows, and the way they have their research they've done is not necessarily in line with some of the beliefs in Amherst.
So I'm gonna ask William if you can send me your specific concerns so I can look into them.
I sure will. They've had a lot of religious research on teenage pregnancies and different things like that I have concerns about. As a company that we are paying, which I'm not quite sure how much the contract is, but that we're paying, and I don't think that it doesn't appear that their research really aligns with a lot of the values that Amherst holds.
Okay.
Sarah?
I'm interested to see this. I attended the first day of the first workshop, and I'll be there tomorrow.
Good.
And I'm not resisting anything, but I'm very unclear about what this school committee's role is, or is going to be. For example, we have policy AD that is our mission statement. We've already got a mission statement. Is this process going to be suggesting to us that we revise our policy to have a different mission statement? Is this process going to end up producing a strategic plan that we'll be asked to vote on and endorse? I mean, in the end, we get to budgets, which obviously we do vote on. So I'm not sure, are we, like, we're invited to participate, we're just being kept in the loop, or we're responsible for at some point saying yes or no, or we do this or we don't. Or saying, no, it's our job to determine what our mission is. And, well, so those are some of my questions.
So I would say the intent was for the district work, because it's a district strategic plan, and it was to really keep the committees abreast of the work that we're doing as a district and where we're moving forward with. I know that the committees have to approve the SOA, and so I wanted to make sure that the work that we're doing to drive what we're moving forward to, the goals, the vision, the mission of the district, the school committee is kept abreast of it. And as you know, as I continue to move through this role, I'm learning that there are things that the school committee has to approve, like a PD plan for the district versus something else. The PD plan would come out of what our goals and strategies would be.
Anna? Oh, sorry, were you also?
Well, so that suggests to me that the whole committee is going to needs to be maybe more directly involved in those pieces that we then are going to be asked to approve, because anyway.
Anna?
So I have one kind of nitpicky thing to point out, which is the first bullet point under critical thinker and innovative creator is the same.
Ah, thank you. That's a typo.
So I was wondering if somehow,
No,
what is it
that's-
supposed to be if it's not supposed to be that?
Strong academic.
I'll make sure that it's
Okay.
corrected by tomorrow.
Okay, and then.
Thank you for catching that.
My sort of more broad comment is some of this seems really aspirational.
Yes.
Like this is the ideal graduate, and it's not like what we need every graduate to be. And I don't know if it's as helpful to say this is our ideal, perfect graduate, or if we need to say every person who graduates from Amherst needs to have at least this. To be able to be a functional member of society, they need to be this. And this seems to go far beyond that and much more into aspirational than it is into every graduate from Amherst needs to be this kind of person, and be able to do these basic things and be able to contribute to society in these very key ways. And so I feel like there's got to be some sort of balance, or, you know, we need to define what this graduate is. Is this our ideal graduate? Is this our average graduate? Or is this our base graduate? Is this what every single person who comes through Amherst needs to be? And by defining that, then it makes this more understandable. So if this is to be everybody, then I think we need to make some adjustments, because I don't think every person who graduates from Amherst is going to be an innovative creator. You know, some people just aren't innovative and creative. They just want to do what people tell them to do, and they can do it very well. And other people like to innovate, like to have the big ideas and, you know, do these huge things. But not everybody is that person. But maybe, is that really important for every person or most people from Amherst to be innovative and creative and entrepreneurial? Or is it really just cool when people do that? Yeah, and I do agree with Tillman and Bridget a little bit that I think that this is really focusing on through an equity lens, through identities, or like including identities. Well, what are we doing through an through that lens? We are thinking critically by doing what? And this just says we are an adaptive problem solver with an equity lens, taking into consideration other people, and it doesn't say what makes us adaptable. What makes us an adaptable problem solver? It's not just thinking about it with all of these different lenses. It's thinking about it critically with information and knowing what the good information is and what the bad information is and how to tell the difference. And how do we say, how do we sort of like get that in here? And that's not a part of the strategy of being a person who thinks through an equity lens. No, they need to think deeply with considering the accurate data or the accurate information with an equity lens, too. But it's not like think with an equity lens. It's how do you think? Because that part's not here. And I think that we need a little bit more of the meat about what we're doing and not just how we're doing it.
This is hard. I mean, it really is, because we weren't there. We weren't sitting in these meetings and contributing or not contributing, but we weren't there. So that's very hard. And that's the first thing I want to say. Second thing I want to say is I was a founding member and founding teacher of a school 50 years ago that still exists. And it's an elementary school. And we went through a process like this before we even opened our doors. It's very difficult because you then have to open it up to prospective parents who have their input into it. And all of those different iterations comes out, and it's different. But then it's the foot on the ground. When you are in the classroom teaching and have to make that come to life in your students. And that then goes all the way back to what curriculum do you then present to those students that aligns with your vision and your values. All right? And that's very difficult if you're not in the room, if you're not sitting down like you are and the others are doing this. So when I looked at this, I said, you know, man, I got all kinds of comments, all kinds, but it doesn't seem fair because I wasn't there, you know. But one of the things that jumped out at me on all of this is that if I looked at this just through a values lens, I would look at this as more value statements. All right? Just from a values point of view. The first one, the adaptable problem solver, I look at these as all values that you want your students to have. All right? Anyway, man, do I have a lot of questions and things that but again, I'm not in the room. And I would have liked to have been in the room, but my dance card is filled. And so it's, again, I can offer feedback, but it's disingenuous of me to do that because I wasn't there to help in the formation of this.
Yes.
I do want us to, I'm going to ask, be mindful of time, but also to say I am taking notes, and I think that the critical things, and I just want to recap what I've heard so that there is, but I think, are there more, anyone else who didn't speak yet? Because I want to make sure, the thing that I heard, and if I connect what Anna said to Tillman and Bridget, is the how isn't clear, and there's more of, because at the end you said how, more about what we're doing versus how, but I think this, if I connect it all, it's, even if this is the person, and these are the skills that the person has, how are they able to do it? What are the academic skills? What are the things that we taught you to do, or you are able to do to get to do these things? That's something that I heard was missing and should be included. The inclusivity, I think for me, the part that I'm, and again, this is why it's an iterative process, and every time you kind of tie it together with the larger group. The thing for me that I think is, we're never going to get anything perfect that everyone's going to agree on, one, but we need to get close enough to it because it represents the first step of the longer process of where we need to move to. There are nuances and things in here that I think we need to speak to. And I think the one thing that resonated with me the most at the end of it was, Anna, when you said, is this our base or is this the ideal? So I also like the fact that for what I'm writing, what I wrote down was making sure that we create a realistic portrait that every child feels that they can achieve or exceed, right? So I'm hearing that. And every child identifies differently. It's not just about race, gender, sexuality, but we also have to be mindful how we call that out. And I think that's why it was like equity for all identities, like sticking to identities. I'm hearing overarching terms in some, and I'm trying to pull it all together. I would ask that the committees send some more specifics of things, because this is a feedback gathering session. So like I said, I understand, like I'm processing through, I understand the academic excellence and pointing those hard skills out and talking about the how do we get there and what are they doing as they adapt, as they problem solve. Like, what are we doing? Am I applying this? You know, like some of the mathematical skills is perseverance. So as I persevere, or as I this, and like, how does that show up? But I think the one thing that stuck with me is making sure that this is achievable for all and it's realistic for all so that students can achieve it and extend it. I do think that we're going to be back and forth, and I know enough about this committee right now to know that there are processors, don't watch me, you know, who are going to send addition, and I do feel like even as you process, if you have more specifics to delve into, like what are things that you would like to see, what are some phrases that we need to call out and that needs to work as we move towards this is very critical in the conversation as we continue this iterative process.
So I have Margaret and Jennifer as people who have not spoken yet, so I would like to let them go first. And then I also want to be mindful of everybody's time because we have a couple of things left and not a lot of time.
So I've been in 2 sessions. I am very concerned about the lack of teachers. And I know that it says it's an uncompensated day. And I'm concerned, I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean they have to take a sick day to come? What does that mean? And is that discouraging people, or is it a union thing? Can you explain that? Because that just poked right out at me every time I read it.
So I know the last couple of emails that went out, and I want to phrase this. We were posed a question when we sent out the first invite if individuals would be compensated for the work that was done, because I think that some felt your screen is lost.
Oh, I just shut it down.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I was like, whoever computer it is.
So I think that goes back into the clarifying ahead of time, like this is not compensated. But I think the last email was kind of really pointed out. So we're going to work on softening that language and clarifying it. But one of the things, like I said, the last time that occurred, individuals, paraeducators, it wasn't just teachers that were invited. There were paraeducators that were invited. Sure. Everyone that was invited. And we purposefully held the sessions between 8:30 and 3:30 because that's work time, right? But one of our issues is coverage. Mm-hmm. Like, I had individuals who emailed me and said, I'm trying to get a substitute and I can't get a substitute, so I can't make it there. So we have talked about, even this time around, like, do we need to hold a focus group or a session for teachers, right? And what is that going to look like? And that's what I'm saying, like, there are conversations that may not be presented here, but they are happening because, again, even in the next 2 days, the amount of individuals who may come for part of a session, like what happened the last time, and may not come for the full session, you know, we are trying to compensate for that opportunity within our fiscal constraints. Mm-hmm. So we may just have to work with our team and see what we would have to, as a trade-off, so that we can get teachers in the room at some point. But also that goes back to what we would be able to fiscally afford in the process.
Because if you're gonna, you know, I think what was said is, you know, we're gonna have to shift what's happening in the classroom to accomplish these things. But if the teachers aren't there, that's a real problem.
So we can't, I've been through this process very similar to this before. You can't write the strategies or finalize the goals without the teachers. Like, no district can do that. You cannot. Not because, and I'm going to say this, and please let this not be the clip. I have to say that. But not because of the work that needs to be done or not done, but because of the weight that the voice of the implementer is. As a superintendent, my job is not to be in the system to do the work. It is to guide the system, to make sure the system can function. So I need to make sure that the individuals who execute the work and implement and make sure that the children learn, which are our teachers, our paraeducators, they need to be present and their voices need to be heard to say, is this realistic? Is this not realistic? You know what, these strategies and things, we do this out. And that was one of the comments that I didn't get to go to the focus group. But the students said, our teachers do this already. They teach us how to think critically. They teach us how to adapt, how to problem solve. They talk to us about innovating. Maybe they don't call it out, you know, but they teach us that. So creating the time where we're not impacting classes and creating opportunities for coverage, and also creating the opportunity to get those teacher voices. But I think the hardest part is we need a teacher's voice with the community voice, with the administrative, like the teacher voice needs to be present at the same time so everyone can hear and it can mesh into the same thing. And I have to own, I think I had to send out the emails for the invites, and so it kind of meshed into the time that I was sick the week before, then I had the 2 weeks of sickness, so human error, I do apologize for them coming out 2 weeks prior to the date, but I think the prior invites, we were asking for people to show up from months before. The first session, we were months before. I think we came here like, hey, I need individuals to show up for this session. So, I apologize for this one in terms of the 2 weeks and knowing that individuals have lives, and that's why we've been working to make sure that we can adjust and create opportunities to get our voices in the room.
Jennifer?
I have two possibly little nitpicky things about this page. In section 2, critical thinker, the third bullet point, just like the structure, critical thinker who maybe diligently seeks. The other thing I struck me a little bit in skilled communicator, in the first bullet point it says who conveys messages in a clear, authentic, and courteous way. And I was struck by courteous because demanding that people be polite or civil or courteous is sometimes used to silence marginalized people, particularly women and women of color. The focus, it feels a little bit like tone policing, and the focus being on the courteous delivery as opposed to what you're trying to say. So I don't need to, you don't need to answer, it's just something that I wanted to point out. I don't necessarily think it's a school's job to teach students to be courteous. Like, I'm not against being courteous. It's a positive thing. I just think it's used, sometimes it's weaponized against people. I was just struck by that word. Thank you.
Okay, so our last are Tillman, Deb, and William were on the list. And, yep.
I just wanted to say something positive. So having gone through strategic planning at a unnamed educational institution nearby recently, I think the process is very involved and is trying to bring people in there, and you can't get everybody in all the time. As you pointed out, at some point the teachers do need to be involved because they have to translate this into what they do in the classroom, but that might come at a later time. And so from everything I heard, I thought the process setup was good. And even that unnamed institution is so reductionist that they put everything into one page and a few words. So that's okay too. And so the final comment to Anna was in terms of expectations of where we are. I think the way to phrase it is that we provide an environment where you can become that. It is up to the student to take advantage of this and work hard and do that, and not just sit back and say, well, go ahead, teach me all this, right? And so I think we can't guarantee it, and we can't expect it that everybody will achieve it, but we need to provide an environment where it's possible.
Thank you.
I will say I went to both sessions for the original creator of this, and there were several groups, and everybody came up with really, really different ideas of what being successful looked like. And this is a pretty good amalgamation of all of the things that came together, and there was a lot of thinking about college after high school isn't the right fit for everybody, and there are lots of other skills that people learn, and how that factors not only into in all of the different facets of their life afterwards, right? I use construction because that is what I know, and so because I felt like a lot of the material provided didn't include construction as a good job after college, and it is, right? Not only do you have a skill that you are very marketable to wherever you would like to go, pretty much anywhere, but you can also fix and do all the stuff at your own house. So you are saving 30% off the top of any project at your own home, at least. Yep. So this is it's a process. We're in like phase 1A of a 10-step adventure. So you got to start somewhere. And I think this is a lot of great feedback. And I also think that the more we have these conversations, the more feedback we'll get, right? Because people will have heard about it 10 times and they'll be like, oh, all right, well, I'm going to pay attention this time. And then they'll be ready to have more conversations. Or they're internal processors and they have to take all of this information in and process it themselves, and then they can have a conversation. So they're not ready for that part yet. So this is a really great first step, and we have a lot of work to do, but I think it's the end result is going to be great. Anything else? Go ahead.
I don't know how to do it, but I'm asking for a way of demonstrating the district's commitment to a growth mindset.
Right, okay. Okay. I think that I'll figure it out. District's commitment to a growth mindset.
I've just witnessed so many teachers working so hard to get students to pull them away from a product-oriented, and I understand this is our product, but a product-oriented education, or I'm not good at that, therefore I'm not going to try. And I just want to be sensitive to that in this process.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Point of order.
Yes.
2.5 hours.
Favorite point of order.
Keep going with the
Tillman for the win.
Okay, Jennifer.
I move that we extend our meeting by 30 minutes.
We ain't gonna need that.
Second.
Was that you, Anna?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that is for the region.
Okay, yes, I'm moving it for the region.
Well,
Yes,
because Anna
yes, because Anna
okay.
seconded.
Bridget.
No.
Oh, I'm gonna need a list. Okay.
I'm going to miss Tillman.
Just say yes, so you can have another half hour.
Sarah.
Yes.
Tillman.
No.
Irv.
No.
Anna.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Deb.
No.
Sarah Beth, yes. William.
No.
Okay. We're adjourned.
Outstanding.
Well, the region is adjourned.
I move that we adjourn the Amherst School Committee meeting.
Second Saturday.
All in favor?
Sorry, whoops.
I
Is
move
this
that we
Amherst?
adjourn the Amherst School Committee meeting. Amherst is adjourned.
I move that we adjourn the Pelham School Committee meeting.
Second.
William?
Yes.
Sarah Bass?
Yes.
Margaret, yes.